Hey, everybody, welcome back to Dana Disagrees. You have been told that money can't buy happiness. And so today I'm going to show you 5 reasons money does buy happiness. And at the end, we're going to talk about also what we need to watch out for in terms of money and in terms of relationships, okay? So, first things first, though, let's just remember that men need to have their 3 M's together, okay? Mind, muscle, and money. Money is one of the 3 M's for a reason, and it's because it's really important in life and in relationships, and it's important enough that I'm devoting this entire episode to just talking about money. But money is one of the 3 M's for men because it's one of the things that you guys need to have together in your life in order to have a productive and successful life. And the 3 M's in general are so important. They're so important for you guys that I even devoted an entire school community to the 3 M's. If you're interested in that, if you're interested in more content like this, if you're interested in getting into a group and a brotherhood of men who are all working on their 3 M's, you can join my school community. It's called 3M Men. Go check that out. Inside of school, there's over 500 men in there already. But working on our 3 M's. Okay, so first, before I get into the 5 reasons that I'm going to show you, I want to remind everybody, because I talk about this all the time. First of all, everything out there, it's social conditioning. Okay. Social conditioning, if you don't know, it's the process by which societal norms and beliefs and expectations, it's how it shapes our thoughts and behaviors and our actions. Essentially, social conditioning is really just why do we think the way that we think? And social conditioning comes from 5 main places. It comes from family, culture, education, media, and religion. And when I name those 5 things off, you can probably see how those things influence how we think about, how we feel about, how we spend money, right? And we're conditioned to think that somehow money is bad. Oftentimes, that's what we think in terms of culture really can have an impact on this. Your family can really have an impact on this, and religion can really have an impact on this, depending on what religion you're in or what church you go to or what, a pastor says. I always on that one kind of come back to a little bit of, I think there's an illogical leap being made in terms of religion and money sometimes where it's like, okay, yes, Jesus did care about poor people, but he didn't care more about the poor. He still cares about rich people. It's not necessarily better to be poor. And I want to get that like mindset out of people, not just in terms of religion, but also in terms of how our families look at things, how media portrays it, how culture and education, all of the pieces inside of social conditioning over time inside of this podcast, I want to work to break down. But today's episode has a lot to do with money. And so we also, in terms of culture, but also in relationships, we downplay money as if it doesn't even really matter, or that it's something that we just shouldn't care about. But that's actually kind of ridiculous. And I want people to get away from that because do you know what the number 1 cause of divorce is? It's money. And so obviously money is really important. And most of my following is a lot of men. And so I really want to hit this home and help everybody understand why money might be important to women. Money is important to women because it helps provide them with some safety and some security. Okay? Safety and security is really one of the core values of women. And financial safety and security matters, emotional safety and security matters, and physical safety and security matters to women. Women prioritize safety and security in general, and some of that comes back to money. We know that overall, women can make money, and women can be leaders, and women can be in charge. I'm not saying that they can't, but we know that overall, men tend to be better at doing those things and tend to be better at making money. So it's important for women that their man is able to make a good living and be able to provide for her because inherently we know we're not as good at it as what you guys are. So that's why women really value that. And I want to get away from demonizing people's preferences and what they want in partners. I think a lot of times men jump to she's just a gold digger because she cares about money. That's not necessarily true. It just has to do with safety and security. Who cares if a woman wants to marry a man who is able to financially provide for her? Okay. Men, I don't judge any of you men for wanting hotness in a woman. I think that's completely fine. You want someone who's fit and skinny and has this kind of butt or this color eyes or her lips look a certain way. I don't care about any of that. I think that's fine if that's what your preferences are. But then I want us to also get away of demonizing the things that women also care about. Does that kind of make sense to you guys? Before we get into our 5 reasons, I really wanted to kind of set the stage of why we think the way that we think and not downplaying money in our lives, because money is what affords us the ability to do everything. So clearly it's super important, and it's in the 3 M's for a reason, okay? Okay, so let's do our 5 reasons that money can buy happiness and see what you guys think at the end of this, all right? So first of all, money buys health. I got to start with health because, again, if you follow me, you know how much I care about health, real health, having a fully functioning body. And that's not only like food and nutrition, it's also, the fitness piece of it and the supplement piece of it. If you have money, you are much more easily able to go buy organic food, which also has a premium price. You're able to buy better quality supplements. I don't subscribe to this idea of buying supplements from like Walmart, Walgreens, CVS. Those can have dyes and fillers, and who even knows what's inside of them, because they're not regulated the way that they should be. And so if you want an actual good quality supplement, you need the money to be able to pay for those things, right? Or if you want to pay for anything that's out of pocket in terms of healthcare, you need the money to be able to do that, something that's, outside of insurance. On top of that, if you have a gym membership, that costs money. If you want to hire a personal trainer, that costs money. That's money, all money well spent, but you need it in order to invest into your health. And when you are healthy, you are a whole lot happier than when you're not healthy. I always say that healthy people can have a million wishes, and sick people only have one wish, and that is to be healthy. And so if you have your health, you're just a whole lot happier, and money can buy you better health. The second one that we're going to go through is, money buys beauty. I feel like that's a little triggering for some people, or maybe for some women who are watching, or I don't know, maybe some of you men are going to argue with me about this, and that's cool if you do, but just hear me out on this one. Now, first of all, are people, men or women, are people naturally beautiful? Yes, of course that they are, but you can use money as a tool to help enhance that beauty. We see this especially with women. And I want to go through more of the women piece than I do men putting money into their health into their beauty, because women tend to care more about beauty. Men want to have the beautiful woman sitting on their arm, but men sometimes are like, oh, all this stuff is so expensive. Well, it's an investment into her beauty, and her beauty helps elevate your status. And that's why I want you guys to care about it and understand it and know that that's part of the reason that women put so much effort into this. It costs money to buy makeup, especially good quality makeup, or to get your hair done, or to get her nails done. All of that stuff costs money. Do you need all of it? Not necessarily. Everybody gets to pick and choose what they want to do, but money is the tool that allows you to buy the things to help enhance your beauty. I feel like inside of culture, right? I talked about social conditioning and culture. Inside of culture, there are, especially for women, a lot of beauty standards, and I'm not even necessarily against that, because I think it's okay to enhance the beauty that we already have. I don't think that we should look completely fake or anything like that, but it's okay to care about beauty. And anybody who says otherwise, honestly, is probably fat and ugly. And that's just kind of what I think about that. I think it's okay to care about beauty. I think it's okay to use money as a tool to enhance that beauty. I mean, even just look at other things like implants, for example. Okay, I don't condone that or anything, because that'll make a woman sick. Those are foreign objects inside of our body. But at the same time, I understand, I live in the real world here. I understand that those things do cost money if you want to go get that done. And it does help enhance beauty. None of us can deny that. I know all of you guys think that. And like, come on, I'm looking at them too. And I can understand the beauty behind them and appreciate it and see it too. Okay. Even like a nice butt. Okay. If you want your woman to have a nice sculpted round butt, well, she's probably got to go to the gym and work on that. And what's that going to cost? That's going to be the cost of a trainer. That's going to be the cost of a gym membership. And that's all worth it, I think. To me, again, everybody can do whatever they want. Everybody is free to make their own choices. Everybody has free will and free won't. And so you can do whatever you want. You don't need to live your life the way that I do. Your woman doesn't need to live her life the way that I do. These are just my thoughts and my points of how money can buy happiness. And one of those things is beauty. Women are a little happier when they are put together and are feeling beautiful. And that rubs off inside of the relationship. And again, it helps elevate the man's status. All right, so our third one here is money buys time. This probably isn't any kind of secret to anyone, especially you guys, but money allows you the ability to afford to hire someone to clean your house, hire someone to do some of your yard work or meal prep if, cooking, isn't necessarily your thing. Those things cost money, but they do end up saving you so much time. And I know that everybody is in a different spot inside of their lives, but when you look at wealthy people and how they talk about money and how they spend their money and then how they talk about time, they are hiring people to do a lot of these things because it helps free up their time. And I know that not everybody's in the same place, but these are the things to consider to help you buy yourself a little bit more time, because I know that a lot of my following, I know a lot of you guys are really working on yourselves. You're working on your mind, muscle, and money. You're working on projects in terms of businesses or starting a new business or working on getting clients. And this would be something to consider to help buy a little more happiness in your life, is if you can just get some of those other things taken care of. On a grander scale, we could talk about things like flying private. Flying private, while that costs a lot more than commercial, it obviously saves a lot of time. That's why the wealthy do it, because they don't have to go to the airport 2 hours ahead of time. They don't have to walk through security. They don't have to then sit and wait at their gate and worry if something is delayed or canceled or anything like that. They just walk in, they get on the plane, and they go, and it saves them so much time. That's why those things happen. And you can also, I'm sure all of you have run into this before, you can also get something done or get something done faster if you have the ability to pay someone more money. Okay, let's say you're building a new house, and whatever part of the construction process you're in, they tell you, something's going to take 6 weeks. Well, I bet if you're able to pay them extra money, they can probably do it in 3 or 4. Right? We see stuff like this all the time. I know that there are some nail salons out there where, okay, it costs $50 for a manicure and it's $50 for a pedicure. But if you want them done together, right, to save time, if you want them done together, and then it's $125. So you pay a little bit of a premium, but you get things done faster. And you can do that if you have the money to pay for it. Money is an excellent tool. I want to get away from the stigma that we shouldn't like it, that it's bad, anything like that. It's a really good tool that we can use to enhance our happiness, enhance our relationships, and also, in this case, buy us more time. Now, money, my fourth one here, is that money also can buy experiences, right? Happiness doesn't only have to do with material things or stuff, physical things. It's also about experiences in life. A lot of you are probably parents out there. I'm a parent too. I have 2 boys and they're 8 and 10. Kids' sports cost money, especially if you're on the traveling teams, especially if you are when you're traveling, like the hotel stays and the meals and all of that extra stuff and the uniforms and the shoes and why are there different shoes for every sport? Sometimes that just baffles me. But all of that stuff costs money. Kids are expensive, you guys. It's actually kind of crazy. For being so little, they're super, super expensive. But you can buy those experiences not only for yourself, but also for your kids, of the sporting events, and then going to sporting events. If you want to go to an NFL game, that costs money. If you want to go to the Super Bowl, that costs a lot of money. Or if you want to go to baseball games, or if you want to go to concerts and you want to travel, the further that you travel, the more money it's going to cost. But those are all really wonderful experiences that you can have in your life, but it takes money to be able to do them. But what do those experiences bring you? Oh, they bring you so much happiness. They bring you so much joy. And those often turn into just these core memories that are completely worth the money that you spent on all of it. I know parents who have traveled around for kids' sports and how much they love it and the camaraderie they have and how much their kids love it and how they bond with the parents and, do all the things, and it's all worth it for them. And the vacations that they go on with their kids, whether it's, going to Disney or whether it's getting an Airbnb at the beach or wherever it is, those things are often worth it to parents and worth it to families. But it takes money to do those things. Money can buy the happiness of the experience that you get. And the fifth way that money does help buy happiness is that money at the end of the day, it buys you options. And what that really means is that money buys you freedom. The happiest people out there feel like they are in control of their life. Because that's a big deal, right? Freedom is a super big deal. And there's financial freedom, there's health freedom, there's time freedom. But when you really kind of break it down, financial freedom leads to the rest of the freedom. If you have financial freedom, you can have health freedom. Because as we talked about in my first point, it takes money to have good health oftentimes. And it helps enhance that and helps it be a little easier to have that good health. And you have more time freedom when you have more money, or at least you have more control over your time, right? Money, it also just, in terms of having options and having freedom, it helps you be better able to decide who you want to work with and who you want to hire, where you want to live, and just what risks that you can take. Because when you don't have a lot of money, you know that you can't take a whole lot of risks. But when you do have money, you're more able to take some bigger risks that can have some potentially bigger rewards. So ultimately, at the end of the day, money buys options, which is really just freedom. And freedom's really like a core value of mine. I want everybody to have financial freedom and time freedom and health freedom and as much freedom as you possibly can, because that's really it's just kind of the goal at the end of the day. So obviously we can see now, hopefully you guys can see from the 5 points that I made, we can see that money is capable of buying happiness. It's just people don't like to say that in culture, right? It's because it's become this like ism that you have to say, well, money can't buy happiness. That's just conditioning that got conditioned into people. It probably was rich people trying to condition poor people into it so that the poor people wouldn't try to become rich. I don't know. I honestly don't even know where it comes from, but it's ridiculous. Money is a really great tool. Money's not a bad thing. People can do bad things with money. They can do good things with money. They can do neutral things with money. It really comes down to what's the intent and what's really going on and how is this being used. So obviously we can see it buys happiness, but also I have to point out, because we have to bring this full circle, that, okay, here's the thing. If money is the only thing that someone relies on in terms of their relationship, because we've got to bring it back to the relationship, then that gets super dangerous, you guys. Like that's what we really need to watch out for, because if money's the only thing that the woman cares about in the man, or if money's the only thing the man cares about in order to be able to attract a woman, and then there's no real emotional connection, the other part, like you're going to look for intimacy elsewhere. And people don't like to talk about that and they don't like to hear about that, but we always have to live in reality. If you don't get that emotional connection, if you don't get that intimacy from the person that you're with, you are going to look for it elsewhere, whether you do that on purpose or whether you don't, okay? Women, I can speak from the women's point of view. Women care about money, but women really, really need to be loved. And I know that we've all seen the polls out there of, okay, if you polled women and you asked them, okay, would you rather be broke but in love, or would you rather be rich but there's not an emotional connection? More often than not, the woman's going to pick the rich without the emotional connection. But like, here's the thing we have to get away from that poll is that neither of those serve women. Women need to feel loved, and part of love is the safety and the security that I mentioned before, and part of that is just financial safety and security. We don't like to look at the piece of, well, you might get intimacy elsewhere, but again, it's like one of my sayings now at this point where you have to live in reality and see how this happens. If a woman only cares about a man's money, she's going to go find the intimacy and the emotional connection elsewhere. If a man relies on his money and then that's how he's able to land the hot girl, but he doesn't have any kind of connection with her, he's going to look for intimacy elsewhere. This goes to both sides of the streets. This goes to both genders in this case. Now look, a good life, I want to end with this. A good life isn't dependent on money. Okay, you can have a good life with or without it. You can have fun with or without it. And you can be happy with or without it. But it does help because money can help buy things that make you really happy. I grew up in a low-income household. We didn't have money, but we were still a happy family. My parents still were happy. But there are a lot of things that you can still buy, like all the 5 that I mentioned, that still buy happiness at the end of the day. So I want us to get rid of the idea that money doesn't buy happiness. We need to get rid of that conditioning and realize that money is a tool that you can use to buy things that help to make you and others really, really happy. All right. Well, thanks for being here, you guys. Be sure that you are following Dana Disagrees on all platforms. Be sure that you are subscribing to YouTube. Be sure you leave a comment below here on YouTube. And again, if you are interested in joining 3M Men on School, we'll have a link below for that. And you can join inside of there and you can see how we're all working on our 3Ms inside of there. And you'll be able to see and just join forces with other men who care about mind, muscle, and money just the way that you do. All right, we'll see you on the next one.